Howdy, folks. I'm the co-founder of Franchise, which is the creator of Fan Token, which is a pretty unique blockchain project based here in LA. I actually just got here, so I have no idea what the other presentations were today, but typically at these kind of events, we are usually one of the less technical, but easily the most fun of the blockchain projects because of the way in which we utilize blockchain for a real application in our lives and the lives of billions of people around the world. So it starts off with sort of a basic premise, which is we're all big sports fans, and we think that sports currently, the vast majority of pro sports, doesn't use technology the way it could to make their sports as interactive as they could be with their fans. We believe the future of sports is interactive. Now, before we get there, let's take a look at what it's like for sports fans right now. So here's a quick video. Hopefully it's loud enough. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but he's yelling at the thing. You don't throw the pass if you have Marshawn Lynch.
A pass at the goal line when you have Marshawn Lynch.
And as a 49er fan, I enjoy seeing Seahawks fans complain, but we've all been there, right? Like anyone who's a sports fan has been there. You've yelled at the TV, you've screamed at it. This very idea started with a few of us sitting in a bar watching a game and saying, God damn, we could do a better job than that guy. So that was our theory. Fans could do a better job. Whether or not they really could, we weren't sure, but we think you could create a more interesting product that's a fairly good business idea by letting fans have some involvement with the decisions their teams made. So to see if it worked or not, we tried. We bought our own team. So last year, 2 years ago, we bought the rights to a team in the IFL. It's an arena football league called the Indoor Football League. 10-team league. Most of the teams are in kind of the northern Midwest. We bought the rights to a team. They approved us for a few different markets, and we let the fans vote on everything. They literally chose the city we played in. They designed the logo, the jerseys. They named the team. They picked the players. They even picked the cheerleaders. They hired the head coach, and they actually called all of our offensive plays live in real time. And it was awesome. It worked really, really well. So we played an 8,000-seat arena in Salt Lake City, sold out. Average attendance in that league is a couple, 1,500, 2,000 seats. We were easily double that. Average video streams of games in that league are like 1,500. We average about 100,000. Our offense was the third-ranked offense in the league. Our quarterback won Rookie of the Year. It actually turned out the fans did a good job, and it was super sticky and super engaging. We had fans in 100 different countries call plays. Most games, we had about 20,000 play callers who would call usually a few dozen plays per person. So hundreds and hundreds of thousands of play calls. And this is all for a minor arena league football team in Salt Lake City. This is not something that normally draws a meaningful crowd. But in our little proof of concept, it worked. We got a bunch of national press and media and coverage, and the technology worked. We were actually able to get play calls from as far away as Hong Kong and Australia done in real time while people were watching the stream on Twitch and actually getting the plays called in time for our coach in the arena to watch live results on his iPad and call the play into the quarterback who would run the actual play. And it's really cool when you actually see it happen. So it was great. It was awesome. It was a great success. But what we realized is that we were a round peg trying to fit into a square hole, a square peg trying to fit into a round hole. We were playing in a league full of traditional teams that weren't interactive like us, and they were never going to be like us. The other owners in the league itself just weren't built for us. And it really was too small of an opportunity. We thought we could do much bigger. So we decided to create the fan-controlled football league. This is an entire football league run by the fans. 8 teams, all play in the same city, play in Vegas. Each team has its own influencer and its own brand identity. You follow the team that you like the most the style of, and then you earn points as you go. Last year was points, this year it's tokens. The higher up you move on the totem pole of fan power, the more control you have of your team. So that's the concept behind it. We've been lucky to have landed some amazing partnerships. So Amazon's Twitch bought the streaming rights for the first 2 years of our league. IMG has signed on to be our production partner, creating all of the content, and we're rep by CA, who's negotiating our linear deals and sponsorship deals. So it's a pretty interesting group of folks who've come together. At this point, you're probably saying, why is this dude here? This is supposed to be about blockchain. Why the fuck is he talking to me about football? And this is where I think it gets kind of interesting when you think about the application for us of blockchain, which is transparency and tokenization. So the entire league is built on the blockchain. Last year, we had a whole series of things that our fans voted on. One of them was an idea to bring a former NFL player named Greg Hardy onto our team. Greg Hardy is a beast in every sense of the word. He is a monster on the football field, and he's a pretty bad dude off of it. Got into a bunch of trouble for domestic violence and DUIs, and was no longer welcome on any teams in the NFL. Wasn't officially kicked out by the league, but every owner or GM had passed on signing him, and it certainly wasn't because of his talent. Like, even right now, 2 years removed from being in the NFL, he would easily be a starter on almost every team in the NFL from a defensive line standpoint. He would have been a dominating force for our team and our league, but he's a bad dude. And so each of those GMs of those teams had to make the decision. Is it worth it? Would my fans and my sponsors want me to have this guy on the team or not? Is it worth it for the football acumen? So we let our fans vote. 50.01% no, 49.99% yes. It was awesome, it was really cool, it was a great vote. We got a bunch of press out of it. It was really interesting to see the fan results. The day that we closed the vote, we announced the results. You can imagine that guy, that Seattle fan, he's that frustrated and he had nothing to do with that play call. Imagine the guys who voted yes, who were like, no, but this guy would be great for our team. They thought it was rigged. So we got a huge amount of fan uprising. No, this is BS. It was all a publicity stunt. He was never going to sign with you. I swear he was. He had a plane ticket booked. He was on the next flight from Vegas to Salt Lake. So it led us, and we started thinking about our own league, to think, well, how do we make this more transparent? How do we actually let fans, if we're going to let them in, we've got to truly let them in and let them understand that their decisions they're making are the real right decisions. So our entire voting engine is being built on the blockchain to enable full transparency of all fan votes. Non-play calling votes, so ones where there isn't a massive uptick in vote volume over a short period of time, will be done on Ethereum, on blockchain, hopefully Ethereum. We'll see how well it scales over the next 10 months. If not, we'll look at EOS or Exchange. We will run play calling votes on a side chain and then roll those votes in, because it just doesn't have the capacity to be able to handle tens of thousands of votes within a multi-second time period. So the first thing is transparency. The second is tokenization. So as I mentioned before, our last season with our team that was not on the blockchain and all the votes were held in our, all the votes in the user database was all stored in our own private database, like any traditional app or game developer. We realized that last year you had this ability to earn fan IQ, but again, there was no real value to the fan IQ, and there was no way for fans to trade it. It was like having points in a video game. And yeah, it had a meaningful amount to your status, theoretically, but there was nothing you could do to move it around, earn it, challenge, raise the stakes. So with the move to blockchain, incorporating this concept of tokenization. So it's tokenization of the fans' value for the team, which can be done through the purchase of fan tokens, through our token sale, or the accruement or earning of tokens based on how well you do. So call play correctly and it gets a touchdown, you earn fan tokens. And then you have the ability to actually trade and deal those fan tokens between yourself and people who have tokens in your team or other teams. Cool? Makes sense? So that's how we get here, fan token, which the first application of which will be our league, the FCFL, the Fan Controlled Football League. But you can imagine its value in various sports. We were just talking about, he's a huge FIFA fan, a huge soccer fan, and talking about the World Cup. Do you know more people watch the World Cup every 4 years than there are Christians? In the whole world. All the Christians in the world. There's more people over here watching the World Cup than there are. There's more people watching the World Cup than there are in populations of China and India combined. It's a massive market, the market of sports. Now, of course, World Cup is the biggest, but any sport that you look at, even American football, which is probably the most niche, if you will, of what we'd consider major sports, because it's really only played here, still has hundreds of millions of fans. NFL games are almost always the highest rated shows on network television because it draws an audience. Football is the largest, sports is the largest community, if you define a community as something that's like a common interest that binds people together, that you can imagine in the world. Again, bigger than the biggest religion, bigger than the biggest countries. We think the application of the fan token has legs across the sports ecosystem. I'm a huge Warrior fan. I don't think that Steve Kerr is going to let me decide who gets to take the final shot in a close game, Durant or Steph Curry or Clay. He's probably going to be a little more open. But I'm sure he won't let me have that decision. But you could imagine an instance of a fan token as something that I can accrue by proving my value as a fan of the Warriors. And I get to be the guy who gets to toss Steph Curry the ball for his pregame shot from the tunnel. that would be of huge value to me as a fan, even if I'm not actually controlling what happens in the field. So the concept is, how do you leverage the token and powered by the blockchain to be able to create a much more interactive experience for fans of their favorite teams, leagues, and even players. We have a really awesome team of advisors and investors from the sports and e-gaming universe, where there's a huge amount of application of this. Guys who've spent their careers in the NFL, in the sports marketing and e-gaming world. We have an awesome founding team. There's 4 of us who are co-founders. 3 of us all come from kind of the mobile tech world. We've all had a handful of successful exits with early stage venture-backed companies. Our 4th brings the football credibility. He played in the NFL for a handful of years and actually knows the game much better than, he likes to remind us that he knows the game much better than we do as just fans. I'm not sure he's always right, but, and we've built a really good team around us. And then on the blockchain side, I think because of the application, the applicability of our token and our project, we've been really lucky to have great interest from a lot of sort of the leaders in the space. So the Bancor team, which is one of the largest ICOs to date, they run a group called Blockchain IL, who is part of we're part of their community. So they are helping us with our token sale. The New Alchemy team, Peter Vesnes is like an OG of the Bitcoin universe, is a personal investor in our project and helping us with our tokenomics. And we just have a really great team of folks. We are currently in private presale mode. We have done very well thus far in our private presale. We've grown to a pretty sizable audience of about 100,000, 130,000 last I checked, who have registered for our referral airdrop program. We've got over 52,000 followers on Telegram and have built a pretty nice community in the crypto investment world, both of accredited investors in the US and international investors more broadly. And we will likely do our token sale sometime in the middle of the summer. We're working through some of the legalese and paperworks with getting ourselves as approved as we can in advance to make sure we've, it's kind of a wild, wild west world where you can see regulation coming. So making sure that you've done everything as buttoned up as possible to ensure you're in line with it is important. So last thing I'll do is I'll give you a quick tour of what it's like to actually call plays in a fan-controlled league. Hopefully you guys can hear this.
4th down, big play. What are you calling? I'm calling a pass. We still got 11 yards to go.
Ben says he's calling a pass. It's 4th down.
Kind of a rough start out there, but seems to be coming back now. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm actually pretty encouraged. Fans are doing pretty well to get a couple good drives in there. We're getting better.
All right, Ben and Noel, thanks very much. Enjoying the game in 117. Let's see this 4th down.
Screaming Eagles going for it here. Furlong Reed drops back, lots of pressure, looking deep into the end zone.
How much fun is that?
What a great fan play call.
And we legit, like, after games, or even like partway through, we'd have players going up to fans and thanking them for calling a play. Like for that player, he just got his number called, he just got a touchdown. How cool is that? The experience, I can tell you, having experienced it, is unparalleled as a sports fan. The interactivity is really neat. I think we are all convinced that the future of sports is more interactive, and I think we have a pretty interesting approach for how we're going to execute on it.
So it lives in an app that's there?
Yeah, so it's interesting you asked that. So we, as I mentioned, we signed an agreement with Twitch. So the token and all voting decisions in the database lives in a distributed ledger blockchain environment. So it's not a closed database or closed app. We have created a UX. For our team last season, we created a UX for play calling and voting that allowed you, it was an app, you could get news information, you could see all the different variables you need to consider for an individual vote and make decisions. For individual play calling, it looks sort of like Madden. So there was a game day screen where it would show, like if you're following along a game on ESPN or something, it shows kind of what the score down distance update is, and then it would show 4 potential plays, and you'd choose the one that was most relevant, or the one that you wanted to pick. We had an algorithm that ran that determined what were the 4 best plays for that given situation. So it wasn't like you couldn't call a punt on 1st down. That was never an option, right? That's never an option for a coach, so it was never an option for our fans. For our new season, because Twitch bought the streaming rights, they actually have a really interactive, they have a very interactive video playing system within the Twitch environment. If anyone's ever used it, it's kind of a popular platform. It's very popular. It's the second high after YouTube. It's the largest amount of streamed video in the world. Every day happens on Twitch, and it's a e-gaming platform. And so on there, you'll actually be able to call plays on the video overlay within the Twitch environment by connecting your account. Yeah.
How much information do you have on the fans after they sign up for this? is it all anonymous? They just got a token, we don't know anything else about them, or do you get any more information about who's on who's voting, who's there?
Good question. You'll need to have an email address and phone number to be able to register and utilize the app. If you want to call plays on Twitch, you have to have a Twitch account. It's like a Twitch Connect, kind of like Facebook. You can register for us with Facebook Connect in which case, obviously, we get a lot more data about you. But theoretically, you can be completely anonymous. I don't need to know your name or anything about you. You can have a abc123@gmail.com, and this is your token address, and this is your wallet. And so I actually think we'll end up having, it's like people ask me this a lot, like, well, what happens if someone wants to, sabotage another team? Well, you pick a team and you're stuck in that team. You can pay transfer fees to be able to move yourself out of it, but an individual account, an individual fan token account can only be associated with a single team at any given time. But you could have multiple. Like, I'm a big Niner fan. I also went to the U, and a bunch of Ray Lewis and Ed Reed went to Miami, so I'm big Ray Lewis and Ed Reed guys. They played in the NFL for the Ravens. There were a handful of years the Niners sucked, the Ravens were good. Still was a Niners fan, but yeah, I'd root for the Ravens. So it's okay for you to root for multiple teams.
But could I be multiple? Could I set myself on this and I have 10 tokens and be counted as 10 fans?
No, you could have multiple different. You could have multiple different wallets with multiple different tokens sets, and be those associated to different teams, or even have multiple within the same team if you wanted. Although that's kind of you earn value the higher up you get, so you wouldn't want to do that.
I can vote 10 times.
Oh yeah, no. So it's not a. Let me clarify that. It's not as if you are redeeming an individual token for your voting. Tokens is the measure of a leaderboard, right? So you'll start as a water boy, and the person who has the most tokens is the Hall of Famer, and the higher up you go, the more power that you have. Right, but you're not actually redeeming. You're not redeeming tokens for it. You own the tokens, and the point is to accrue as many as you can. And there's a finite supply of tokens, so we have a hard cap on how many tokens we'll issue. So theoretically, the more fans you have involved in calling plays, the more valuable each token is to accrue.
But you can't make the system. You can't. You make the system by being like, I would put myself 100 fans on one team.
Oh yeah, no, because the lower token values, like 100 water boys would be worth like half of a Hall of Famer, right? So the point is we don't believe all fans are created equal. So the point is that the better you are as a fan, the more power you have, and it's on it's like any sort of game mechanic. It's on a kind of curve. For the very top will be a much smaller percentage versus the long tail. And free to play. You don't have to have bought tokens. So part of our token allocation is they call a marketing fund, is typically what they call it in ICOs, which is a pretty good quantity of tokens they'll be using to seed accounts. So even for fans who are not crypto investors and have no idea what a token or an Ether wallet is, when you sign up and you use the app for the first time, you will basically be given a wallet inside your app with a subset of tokens in it, and every action you do, you will accrue more.
So does the play go to the coach or the players on the field? I mean, how do they know?
Last season it went to the coach because the league, this is part of the problem of playing in a traditional league, didn't want our players with wearable devices on them because the other teams didn't have it. So it went to the coach on the sideline. He called it in as if it was a call sheet. But in the new league, there's no purpose for that. We'll just go straight to the players. Quarterbacks in the field. Well, for football, it's a little bit unique, which is it's very easy. It took a lot of tech building for us to do this, but it's very easy theoretically for the flow of the game to call offensive plays because the offense is who dictates the tempo of the game. It's very difficult to call defense because you don't know the formation or how fast they're going to get to the line, how much time you have. So last year we never even made it an option to call any parts of the defense. Our fans got to decide the roster and help choose who was on the defense, but there was no defensive play calling. For the FCFL, our plan is to incorporate basically a pressure dial, so fans can choose to bring pressure or not. It won't necessarily change the formation, but it'll determine if you're blitzing or dropping back.
Can the coach call or the players call an audible as well and change the play?
Really good point. So the point of this, from the FCFL perspective, is to let fans make the decisions that a coach or a GM would normally make. So a coach normally makes the decision, this is the play. And with any given play, there are a series of of hot routes or audible options, and it's up to the quarterback at the line of scrimmage to make that decision. Same rules apply here. Fans make the play. Certainly the quarterback can make an audible. And of course, just plays break down. Like, we happen to have a really good running quarterback. There was countless times last season where, and we didn't have a great offensive line, there were countless times last season where the fans would call a pass play and it would break down. He'd have to scramble. I mean, he couldn't throw the ball, right? He's got a guy pressuring him and there was no one open. He doesn't have to throw it. And he would break it. He'd get a first down or a touchdown, and the fans who called that play still get rewarded the points because the play you called did in fact work, even if it wasn't executed the way you drew it up. Anything else? Questions? Yeah, fire away.
When are you going live?
Good question. So our plan right now, so the token, we're in token pre-sale mode right now. We'll do our proper public token sale. If we end up doing a public token sale, hopefully we'll close out the round as a private sale and then just do an airdrop to make sure there's enough liquidity in the market, or enough demand in the market to be able to get enough tokens in the hands of our fans. That would probably happen midsummer, and then we're slated to start the league this time next year. We're looking at venues right now. The plan is to do it in Las Vegas. We have a relationship with the Downtown Project in Las Vegas, which is part of Zappos, which is part of Amazon, part of Twitch, that has offered to give us some land there that's pretty unique to create a cool venue. Our games, we weren't going to play in like a traditional, or like last year we played in an arena that was like a hockey arena for the Olympics. The concept for this is really to make it much more of a production studio. So picture like American Ninja Warrior. Like there's bleachers and there's fans, but it's really more a production studio that these people are playing in. And then ideally we do it in a way where we can actually take it on the road. So we could play a season in Vegas, and a season in Miami, and a season in Atlanta, wherever we want to go. Questions, thoughts, ideas? No? Cool, well thank you. Yeah, keep firing away, go ahead.
I don't want to, can you see this being used for multiple sports? Like, maybe not used for football?
Yeah, 100%. It's actually, we talk about it so much about different sports that I think it's applicable to. To be honest with you, when the very first idea started for this, we were sitting in the bar watching a baseball game. And we actually came really close to buying a minor league baseball team in Fort Worth, Texas, to try it with. I'm actually glad we didn't, because I think football is a more exciting, more interesting sport. But you can think about practical applications of fan involvement. I mean, even like soccer for sure. There isn't as much play calling per se, but there's a huge amount of fan interactivity. Like FIFA with the World Cup, for example, I think there's been discussion of them having a Legends World Cup, which would be like, not every 4 years, like the other 4 years, every 2 years, where you have like Beckham, like he's not good enough to make the UK team anymore, but like people still pay to see him, and you have a shrunk down version of it. You can imagine them utilizing this sort of a technology for enabling fans to actually have involvement and say and that sort of thing. Cool. Well, thanks guys, appreciate it. Learn more, join our Telegram.